Alright, just making some notes for the Apple iPod HiFi sound system. It's the official name of this, otherwise known as the A1121, otherwise known as the 820-1770-A 2.1 channel sound system. And after all these years, it's from 2005, you can actually see the copyright on the motherboard right there. Beep. After all these years, it's quite a nice sound system. I'm actually pretty impressed with it. It's extremely well built, super heavy. Holy crap, are these speakers heavy? And the case is super heavy too. As you can tell, it's got a bunch of foam padding, a double thickness, double material frame plus foam padding. It's heavy duty, meant for pumping out the lower frequencies out these vents here, and to not rattle. And I believe it accomplishes that goal quite effectively. So what did I have to fix here? Well, a lot of folks report problems with the light on power supply, which is this dude. And is there a part number here I can help folks out with? There's quite a lot of documentation. Well, not quite a lot. There's a decent amount. Model number PA-3150-01A. Anyway, you can see it outputs 17 volts, 6 volts, and 3.3. Pretty ideal for this application. The 17 volts goes to power the high-powered Class D amplifiers, and then 6 and 3.3. 3.3 is going to be used for logic, and 6 is going to be most likely for the op-amps, the op-amp stage, the preamp stage. So, yeah, it's a decent power supply, and my guess is it probably breaks because people just leave it plugged in forever, because Apple didn't include a power switch for this thing. Just totally silly. There's literally no power switch to turn it off or on. You have to, like, physically unplug it, which I'm sure a lot of people don't do, and then that power supply, you know, capacitors being on all the time, just dry out and it fails. However, that was not my problem. My problem was with the circuit board, and mostly because of hacks that I did to it many years ago. I had decided quite some time ago that I wanted to build this into a lithium-ion system and use a step-up converter to get the 17 volts out, although it can run off something as low as, I think, 9, because it's meant to work with D batteries, if you can believe that, from back in the day. And yeah, I wanted to put some lithium-ion cells where the D batteries were, so I did all these hacks and created a whole thing on the top with a XLR input. It's totally nutty. It never worked that well, so I just was like, forget it. I want to take this back to stock. That's kind of what I've been doing lately, is taking a lot of my hacks and making them stock again, which, you know, is kind of nice because it's kind of fun restoring things, I guess, and also learning what I did and didn't do correctly back in the day. And I'm just going to go over what I did not do correctly back in the day and how I fixed it. So there's a number of mistakes that I did. This was long before I had a digital microscope. And one of the things, though, I really can't blame myself for is these capacitors. These are the weirdest, some of the weirdest capacitors I've ever seen in my life. And they actually melt if you put a soldering iron on them. I don't know what material they are, but holy crap, does that suck. You can see this one looks all mangled over here. So does this one. And actually this one I just removed because it was so jacked up and was actually causing me issues. The other ones seemed to at least work. But yeah, that's the main thing you want to watch out for, is those capacitors are some funky, almost just really funky material. And I'm sure, you know, it's just a type of material that makes for better audio fidelity, which is cool. It just sucks if you're repairing this and you don't know that those melt. By the way, you'll get these little bits of black crap everywhere from the adhesive kind of foam that's on the wires, which, by the way, turns into a sticky, nasty substance over the years. It's not fun, but use gloves and you'll live. So a couple things I did. First thing I did was I pulled power from the op-amp stage to power my XLR preamp, which, by the way, if you are crazy like me and you want to do that, the power pins are here and here. You can get -5 and +5. So you get your dual power supply that way. Not surprising, this has a dual power supply to do a high-quality preamp stage. Heck yeah. And what else should I point out back here? Obviously, I broke off this capacitor. I ripped out the traces, so that was pretty bad. I had to put it on its side and then wire directly to its next point of contact, which is one of those weird funky capacitors. Anyway, that works now. There was some resistors and stuff that I had removed for unknown reasons that I kind of cleaned up over here and over here, those two areas. They're all cleaned up nicely now under the microscope. And then over here, I had done something really funky. I don't know why, but I had started to mess with the volume control. Now, this is a TPA3004 Class D amplifier from Texas Instruments. It's actually still in production, believe it or not. Like, how many years later? Over 15 years later. Pretty cool. Anyway, for some unknown reason, I took out this resistor, which is a 41.1 kilo ohm resistor, and I replaced it with a 15K. I'm sure I was trying to get creative with the volume control, because that's what that does. That controls the volume. But I have no idea why I would mess with the original volume control. But there it was. Maybe I was trying to get more juice out of it or something. I don't know. And over here, I did not have the original resistor. That 41.1K is not an easy value to get. So I combined a 2.2 kilo ohm and a 39 kilo ohm over there to make the proper volume control. And it works. Yay! What else did I screw up with this thing? Oh yeah, the biggest thing of all was I went and did a bunch of weird hackery stuff with the iPod dock. I actually cut off half the iPod dock wires and then used the remaining harness to solder to the fancy LED board so that I could have an LED board sticking out where the iPod dock was. I don't know what I was thinking, folks. I guess I didn't like the fact that the LED actually displays right here, and you have to take off the cover to see it. It is kind of weird. I wanted a more visible LED, maybe for playing this at night or something. I don't know. That seems like a really, really dumb way to go about it, though, but that's what I did. Maybe I was desperate to reuse that same connector. Of course, I removed all the circuitry that I had in here, which you can see I melted stuff. I don't even know why that's melted. Oh, it looks like I was removing the dock and did not remove the motherboard when using the hot air gun, and I clearly did not use Kapton tape either. You know, beginner mistakes. It's all in one piece, though. It'll still seal the this rubber area. This is to seal the air pressure coming out. So that's good. It'll still work. And what else did I do? I also cut this this wire here. Not super sure. I think I was using the ground. That's a ground. That's what it was. I was using the ground to try to run that wire to the battery compartment, which is down here. What I had done is I desoldered this wire, which is the ground, connected a new cable to that ground, and then the positive supply, which goes to the motherboard. That's right, I'd soldered it to the motherboard. Anyway, all sorts of weird stuff to try to get the lithium-ion cells in the back here wired into the internal compartment. And to do that, I drilled like a slightly larger hole going to the battery cell over there and removed the the D battery spring. Anyway, I put that all back to stock as much as I could. Obviously, I don't have the spring anymore. I can't replace the spring, but I'm not trying to run this off D batteries anyway. I just want to run it off the wall. And it totally works now. Like, everything is all fixed. The only thing that remains, should I decide to do it, I mean, I just played it a bunch. It sounded fine. But was the one melted broken capacitor here, which, by the way, comes pretty sure from the A1121. This is a dual HiFi op amp. And I'm not even sure what the value is. That's the problem. It's probably a 10 microfarad, which these kind of all seem to measure, but I haven't taken them out of circuit to measure them because I don't want to, because they melt when you put your soldering iron on them. I don't want to break any more of those. So I don't know, man. I might put a 10 ohm or 10 microfarad capacitor there, or I might just leave it and call it a day because it seems to work and sound great. Yeah, I gotta say, I'm actually pretty impressed with the design of this thing. This is Apple's venture into the hi-fi audio market in the mid-00s. They were pretty into that. When you went to the Apple store, they had a bunch of these kind of things and Kilpsch audio gear. And yeah, I think this board kicks ass. I think it's well designed. It looks super sweet too. And even though these capacitors melt, I'm sure there's a good reason for it to get better fidelity, audio fidelity. They really do look like they went the extra mile on this. I'm sure it was not cheap. when it was MSRP'd. But, you know, it's got really decent Class D amplifiers. It's a super beefy, you know, weighty 2.1 speaker. The weight is not artificial. It's from the speaker magnets. So it'll pump some serious juice. The enclosure is top notch, double-walled enclosure with foam padding and these two vents. You know, it's really got a lot going for it. So even though it's probably worth about $100 if it was in top shape, and of course it's not. So you might think, well, maybe it's not worth my time repairing it. I think it's got so much going for it that it's worth doing and not putting it in landfill or whatever. So that's why I have repaired it. And I'm going to put this all back together, keep it in my living room, and have it as an extra audio setup. What I'll probably do, though, and what I encourage everyone else to do, is hook this up to hook up the mains for it to a surge protector with a power switch, and that way you can turn the power off and on and not kill your power supply by leaving it plugged in all the lay long day, as the old saying goes. Anyway, shaky camera video for old time's sake, because why not? Just trying to show this speaker anyway, and I'm a little bit lazy. Hopefully this video helps somebody out there understanding this motherboard, because there's no schematics available. And, you know, obviously the weird things I did aren't going to help anybody, but, you know, maybe somebody out there has a different issue. Mostly it's your power supply issue, and you just want to measure those voltages. This is your main power plug, and just check your voltages there. I don't think much of this other stuff's going to go bad, you know. Just don't mess with it like I did. And you got a nice, very nice Class D 2.1 system here. For anyone that's curious, this is the subwoofer, and then speaker 1 and speaker 2. So good stuff, folks. Very impressive design. That's all for this video. Sega Sonic Fan, signing out.